You might have to face facts that if the New York Mets, Grimace, Hamburglar, Frank the Tank, Bernard, Beanie Campbell, Jose Iglesias, and Pitbull, Charlie Brown, Linus, and the Great Pumpkin combined can't stop the Dodgers, maybe nobody can. We're talking about that in 30 seconds. Don't go anywhere. Well, ski and welcome in to another edition of the PHNX D-Backs podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as your mayor PHNX. This man next to me is occasionally known as Jesse Friedman, but he is always known in every circle as the Thunderstick. And of course, this show is brought to you by our friends at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use that code of PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why it is never ordinary at Bet365. And Jesse, this has not been an ordinary postseason for the Los Angeles Dodgers. We have grown accustomed to laughing at them, pointing at them, watching them choke, watching them flame out and burn, crash and burn. And instead, what we are seeing in this postseason is the Dodgers playing their best baseball of the season at the right time. They take Game 3 tonight over the New York Mets by a score of 8-0. And it appears that the Dodgers are very good when they actually use the starting pitcher.
Yeah, I will start by saying that I am at Scottsdale Stadium right now. We're gonna talk some Arizona Fall.
Oh, there's later. That too. Yeah,
Yu-Min Lin looked really good. So for all the D-Backs fans joining us, we're gonna talk about all those things here in a little bit. But yeah, starting with the NLCS. Yeah, this felt like the season out of all the years where we've maybe had some doubts about the Dodgers. This year felt like the one where there were just too many obstacles to overcome, right? The pitching, we talked so much about the pitching and, you know, how do you make a deep run in the postseason when your best pitcher in Tyler Glasnow is on the IL, when Gavin Stone, who is probably one of the Dodgers' most consistent pitchers during the season, if not the most, he also is injured and out for the year, and Kershaw is out, and Tony Gonsolin, and obviously Shohei Ohtani is not pitching this year. There's a lot of talent that this Dodgers team is missing, and yet I think what I maybe underestimated a little bit going into the postseason is just that the Dodgers can just kind of flat out hit teams because their offense is just so deep and so good. And that means a lot in the postseason. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about, all right, who's your game 1 starter? Who's your game 2 starter? And again, as we've discussed recently, the Dodgers pitching staff is a big part of the success they've had. I mean, their bullpen has been really good. And Walker Buehler has not been great overall, but he was pretty good in the game tonight. But yeah, it just goes back to this Dodgers offense that it's not just Ohtani and Betts and Freeman. It's Max Muncy, who reached in all 5 of his plate appearances today. The list goes on. Kike Hernandez just continues to absolutely rake in October for some inexplicable reason. So, it's been impressive. And at the same time, I will say that I don't think we should count the Mets out in the series. The Diamondbacks were also down 2-1 in the NLCS a year ago at this time. So it is still very possible that the Mets can find a way to come back.
Well, who has the right attitude, Jesse? Who says, who cares about the postseason when AFL exists? And that's absolutely the truth. We just have to cover this so that we can get to the nougat inside of this candy bar that is Arizona Fall League talk. Because, yeah, me and Jesse had a blast out there at Scottsdale Stadium watching the Salt River Rafters take on the Scottsdale Scorpions. But, I mean, again, just kind of glancing over at this NLCS, we were watching it there in the press box, Jesse. When you have guys, you bring up Kike Hernandez, when you have guys like Kike Hernandez doing it to you, and of course, he has a track record in the postseason where he just is a different player. But he has 13 RBI on the road this postseason. He homered again tonight. He went 2 for 5 with a homer, 2 runs, 2 RBI. He has a 983 OPS in the playoffs this year. And it's like you already have Betts, Freeman, Ohtani to deal with. You already do your best to keep those guys at bay. And then you have Max Muncy hitting home runs off of you and Kike Hernandez hitting home runs off you. I mean, Muncy reached in all 5 of his plate appearances tonight with a home run, a single, and 3 walks. And I mean, again, these guys, it feels like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Ohtani, Freeman, Betts, those guys have constantly been a threat as well. But when I guess the role players, as you want to call them, the non-marquee names are the ones that are killing you, this is an almost impossible task to beat this team.
Yeah, and I think on the flip side too, like the Mets have been on a great run. I mean, it's unbelievable that they've gotten to this point and deserve a lot of credit for the way they played in the second half.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the Mets, there just isn't any comparing these two lineups, right? I mean, the Mets have Lindor, who's a great player. I mean, you know, an MVP candidate for a reason, but the Dodgers lineup just has more horsepower than the Mets lineup, and that's even acknowledging that the Mets had one of the better lineups in baseball this season. There's not really any holes. The depth of their lineup has been a big asset for them, but in terms of that top end talent, you know, Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor and Mark Vientos, like, again, these guys deserve a lot of credit, but
yes,
it's not Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman. You know, even Max Muncy, like Max Muncy is what, the 4th or 5th best hitter on the Dodgers, and he would be one of the Mets' best hitters probably if he was on that team. So I think we're also seeing that come into play. The fact that this Mets lineup is good, it is above average, but it's going to have a clunker every now and then, and somehow they managed to really avoid that, at least for most of this postseason. But obviously, we saw that today with them getting shut out.
And I mean, Jesse, it's just not just their offense. Their bullpen has been incredible. They went 5 innings tonight, 1 hit allowed, scoreless. And then Walker Buehler bounced back and had a nice start. He didn't go very deep. His pitch count got up there. He got up to 90 pitches in 4 innings, but still he gave him 4 innings, 3 hits allowed, no runs, 2 walks, 6K. Again, he gave up, what was it, 6 in that last outing against San Diego Padres. So this was a real nice rebound from that. And again, it was guys like Walker Buehler that were the question marks when you looked at the Dodgers pitching. And if Buehler's giving you this, then again, much like what I was saying about the non-marquee guys beating you, you're in trouble when Walker Buehler is having outings like this.
I mean, you got to give him some credit, right? I mean, I think his last outing, the numbers were probably worse than what he actually deserved. He did a nice job, giving the Dodgers some length in that game against the Padres. And also that inning where the Padres scored a bazillion runs, the Dodgers defense was not so great in that inning. You could argue that, Walker Buehler should have come away from that game with a much better final line than he did. So yeah, maybe we're not giving Buehler quite enough credit for the way that he's pitched, and especially in this one, doing it on the road. I guess both of his starts have been on the road in the postseason. So he deserves some credit for getting the job done there. But yeah, it just feels like comparing this year's Dodgers team to last year's Dodgers team, it just feels like the Dodgers lineup is in a totally different place. Yeah. I mean, obviously Ohtani's Ohtani, but then it's also Teoscar Hernandez. It's also Kike Hernandez doing what he's doing. Tommy Edman providing some depth. Gavin Lux has been a different player in the second half this year. So it's a good baseball team.
I'm still furious with the Tigers over the Jack Flaherty move, Jesse. Nicklin in the chat says Soto to D-backs. Nicklin, I'm also drinking. So, hey, cheers to you. No, I don't think Soto to D-backs is going to be an off-season topic for us or anybody else. But that's mostly because the Diamondbacks have already spent all of their money, pretty much. There's Maria saying, what is stopping the D-backs from signing Soto? Money, Maria, money. money. Jordan Montgomery, Maria, yes. Thank you, who. That's what's stopping them. But again, hats off to the Dodgers. It'll be interesting to see because the Mets, baseball is baseball, Jesse. So it's like after game one, we were like, the Mets are cooked. And then the Mets come back in game two. And, you're like, they've never been more back. Right. So baseball just continues to be hilarious like that. But again, the Mets, I feel like this is kind of a must-win game for them. And I know it's not a must-win game because it's not an elimination game, but it's hard to imagine them losing this next game in New York and then being able to come back to Los Angeles and even the series at any point.
Yeah, I mean the fact that the Mets lost today means they're going to have to win at least one more game in LA, right? It's now impossible for them to close out the series at home, which it's not impossible for them to do that, right? They already won one game in LA. But you're right that the Mets they're not out of this thing after that absolute blowout game one. It was totally easy to look at the Mets and say they were dead in the water, and then suddenly they come back and they win game two, and the Mets are in a pretty good spot, and it's the same situation now. If the Mets turn around and find a way to win game four of the series, then again they're in a pretty decent spot at that point. I mean, not an ideal spot. You'd have 3 games left with 2 of those theoretically happening at Dodger Stadium, but this Mets team is feisty, Derek, and they've shown us time and time again that the moment you want to count them out, they generally have something else in store. So we'll see if OMG and all the other narratives, Grimace, the whole thing, if all of those characters are able to help power the Mets even further.
They have a whole squad over there. And Spears and Ali, our favorite guys from Tucson, asks, what can be the Diamondbacks version of the Grimace blessing? First, Jesse, it delights me to think of Spears and Ali being together at 9:30 at night in front of a computer, like hanging out.
They're inseparable.
They're
inseparable.
The way that you and I were at an Arizona Fall League game tonight, and people probably saw us and were like, oh, how cute. They're never apart. But Jesse, this is a very good question. I feel like I'm showing my age here because my instinct is to fall back on something Wallace and Ladmo related, which I know I'm dating myself, and I know that's probably losing a lot of young people like yourself going, who? But there's some older folks that are with me on the Wallace and Ladmo thing. I don't know. I brought up Vince Vaughn's character from Old School in the opening of this show. So maybe Vince Vaughn, he comes to Arizona a lot. His parents live here, I think. And I saw him at the train park one time. So maybe Vince Vaughn, he seems like he would be a delightful. He's Fred Claus. He's Santa Claus's brother. So, I mean, there's something there.
Yeah. There you go. You run with that.
Jesse's not gonna have much input here on pop culture characters that we can use to replace Grimace. I still like the idea of getting Ronald McDonald, or maybe the Burger King. Go get the creepy Burger King from a few years back, the sneaky one that hit around corners and stuff. I don't know. He's very menacing, and I feel like that's kind of what we need, something evil on our side. But of course, yes, Jesse, the Dodgers. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to stop the Dodgers.
The other thing I'll say about the Mets real quick, I talked about how their lineup doesn't have the horsepower that the Dodgers lineup does. I think it's the same with their bullpen, right? I mean, Reed Garrett's been really, really good throughout the postseason. You saw him give up a couple runs in this game. Tyler McGill also gave up several runs in this one for the Mets. So it's not a bad bullpen. I think it is above average, and you love Edwin Diaz at the end there, but it did feel like at some point, you're going to see some of these guys struggle maybe a little bit, and today felt like a bit of a turning point there.
Ryan says Derek dressed as a cow throwing out the first pitch will be our Grimace. Is that a Milkman related thing? Because if so, I'm on board with it. I'm fine with it. I love the idea.
I mean, it sounds like you're dressing up as the Chick-fil-A mascot, right? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, no, I don't want to have anything to do with Chick-fil-A. Like, I love their chicken sandwiches still, but publicly I don't want to associate myself with them. But I do appreciate you guys for being here. Make sure to hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel, do it now. If you haven't hit that notifications button yet, do it now. Don't know what you're waiting for. That way you don't miss out whenever our wonderful shows go live, or we drop things like our PHNX Plays, which dropped earlier today for game 2 of the wild card series in the video game world of the Arizona Diamondbacks actually making the 2024 postseason. So make sure not to miss that, because that's a lot of fun, as well as everything else that's going on. ASU, incredible right now. Don't miss the ASU boys. Even though I was shunned over there, Jesse, I was told I was a bandwagon fan and I wasn't allowed to show up now and root for ASU, which maybe that's the problem. Maybe that attitude is the problem. But we'll discuss the important thing around here right now, which is Arizona Fall League Baseball and how Yu-Min Lin did in his outing tonight on the other side of this break. So make sure you don't go anywhere. But we're talking about Valley staples. We're talking about Wallace and Ladmo. There's nobody that's a Valley staple like Empire Today. If you want to update your flooring in your home, you want to do some home improvements around your house, make sure to check out Empire Today. It is the best place to get new flooring. So, of course, they have copycats, but Empire can't be beat on quality, service, and speed. It's their easy, quick, and convenient service that sets them apart. And, of course, they will not take up too much of your time. They have their floor visualizer right now that you can check out. It's a virtual floor designer. It's a great way to see how the new flooring will look in any space. It's as easy as snapping a picture and instantly seeing how the new floors will look in your room, as well as offering you a curated product selection so that you don't have to look through thousands of samples to find flooring you like. They'll find out what you're looking for and match your needs. They also service their own warranties, so don't miss out on all of the options that Empire Today has to offer. If an issue arises, just call Empire. They will service those warranties themselves. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 discount when they use promo code PHNX. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/PHNX for details. And of course, if you want to make sports more fun, you got to check out Bet365. Bet365 pioneered live in-game betting, and they offer the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. Right now, new customers can sign up using our code of PHNX365. And when you open an account, you can deposit $10 and choose either between a bet and get offer, where you can place a $5 bet or more and receive $150 in bonus bets, or a first bet safety net offer where you can place up to a $1,000 bet. And if your qualifying bet loses, you will receive a matched refund in bonus bets. Don't miss out on their early payout offers. They have them across all sports. Baseball, for instance, if you're a winner, if your team goes up by 5 runs, and with the way this Dodgers-Mets series has been going, that seems like a slam dunk. You don't even have to worry about the other team coming back. But should they come back, you'd still be a winner. Parlay and same game parlay selections will be marked as winners as well. Download the Bet365 app and use that code of PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why it is never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or over and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. Well, it was a beautiful Arizona night tonight. The weather is cooling down, and it reached that perfect point, Jesse, for an Arizona Fall League game out at Scottsdale Stadium between the Salt River Rafters and the Scottsdale Scorpions. Of course, we were out there not only to catch amazing Fall League baseball that, is arguably better than postseason baseball, right? Like there's,
it's not even a question, Derek.
It's not even a question. It's not even close.
Question.
Yeah, it's like the two things are completely different things, but it's also very exciting to see one of the Diamondbacks' top prospects on the mound.
Yu-Min Lin was really impressive. Yeah. He got in trouble a couple of times. He gave up several, I think 3 out of the first 5 hitters that he faced reached base. All 3 of them singled, but he was able to pitch out of trouble, and he was able to get swing and miss. He wound up throwing 3 scoreless innings, 4 strikeouts, had 1 walk, gave up 3 hits, didn't allow a run. So, yeah, it was impressive. And it was the second consecutive time that Yu-Min Lin has done this. He has now made 2 starts in the Fall League, and he has thrown 6 scoreless innings with 7 strikeouts to just the 1 walk. So it's been fun to watch. He's got the whole kitchen sink arsenal. As Stephen Carey was talking about on the show the other day. And you saw that coming into play today, where he's able to just keep opposing hitters off balance. He had, I think it was 6 whiffs in this game that he generated. There was one particularly dominant at bat where he struck out a guy on 3 pitches. So it was really fun to watch.
Who says no live stream of this game? I hate it. Well, we have some clips for you, including Sean bringing up that we don't like to talk about Yu-Min Lin getting hit by baseballs. We know that there was a freak accident where he was just standing in the dugout and he got struck by a baseball. He did get hit by a comebacker tonight. It wasn't anything serious, but we do have video of that to show you again. And then he stayed in the game after this, but this is Yu-Min Lin getting hit by that pitch, or by that comebacker here. It was impressive to see him, Jesse. He was definitely working the count. He was throwing a lot of pitches. That one, see, nothing too bad. Just kind of caught him on the ankle there. The trainer did come out to check on him. I mean, I saw him kind of waving him off ahead of time that he really didn't need him to come out, but obviously they wanted to make sure, especially of someone, of someone's value like Lin is to the organization, that he was doing okay.
Yeah, no real concerns. I mean, you can see here it's kind of a delayed thing. Like the trainer does go out there, but it doesn't look like he's hobbling around or anything like that. I think it caught him maybe on the heel, somewhere in the ankle area, but it didn't hit him all that hard, and he wound up staying in the game. And yeah, as we said, wound up pitching pretty well in this one. It would have been very sad, Derek, if we'd come out to watch Yu-Min Lin pitch, and
I would have been devastated.
I would have been devastated.
I would have lost
it. Also would have been very par for the course, given what many Diamondbacks top prospects went through from an injury standpoint, including this year, including Yu-Min himself, of course. Who is the guy who somehow took a foul line drive to the face while standing in the dugout on a day where he was not pitching back in late April, and missed like 6 weeks because of that. So yeah, he was fine, and that was some rare good news on the injury front for the Diamondbacks.
Just as a side note, I think it was Cordova there from the Colorado Rockies got hit in the head by a pitch. And that was a very scary moment. Very scary. That sound was awful, Jesse, and I was entirely too close to it, and I did not want to hear that sound of that ball hitting that helmet like that. But luckily he was okay. It was just it's wild, because in those fall league games, I hate to make this comparison because I know you're not going to understand it at all, but it's like some of the wrestling shows I go to or I'm a part of, where backstage I know that we don't really have very much medical personnel back there. So should something happen, and as you've seen with wrestling, these guys are doing stupid crap and putting their bodies on the line every single night. I was a little bit worried there for a moment when they came out that they were almost being a little bit too lackadaisical with, what had happened and how serious that looked there for a moment.
You're talking about Cordova?
Cordova, not Yu-Min Lin. Yeah, Cordova.
Okay.
Yu-Min Lin, that looked like to me like that was something that unless he called them out, I wouldn't have even really stressed, having the trainer go out on something like that because of how mild it seemed. And then we do have video of him. I believe this was the very next pitch. Here he is fielding a ground ball. So, I mean, this just goes to show this was just a few moments later after they left the field. The trainer left. He was able to make a pretty, I mean, I don't want to say difficult play, but not an easy play. Looked pretty easy there. And then he went out and he mowed down batters after that, Jesse. So he was fine. No concerns on the injury. But when you do see stuff like this in Arizona Fall League game and you don't have video or something to see how bad it is, you're kind of left wondering what's the extent of an injury like that.
Is that you patting yourself on the back?
Yes, I have.
Taking video there.
Hey, whatever.
Video credit, Derek Montilla. Just
where's that? That should be up in the corner. I'm furious about that. I'm going to DMCA this show. But we do. Speaking of video, we also have video of him striking out a batter in 3 pitches, Jesse. And I mean, I know you saw a lot of impressive things tonight from Yu-Min Lin. I was curious what impressed you the most.
Yeah, I mean, just the sequence, I think shows his skill set pretty well. You see a fastball that has some good arm side movement to it on that first pitch. I asked Yu-Min about this after today's game, whether he's throwing a four-seamer or a sinker, and he said it's both. It registered only as a four-seamer in his last start when we had StatCast data. We didn't have any StatCast data today, but yeah, he said he likes to use, I believe it was four-seamers to righties, and then he likes to use his sinker to lefties for the most part. So yeah, he has a variety of weapons, and that pitch right there might have been the best pitch he threw all game. I mean, that was a very, very sharp breaking ball. I believe that was a curveball. He has, again, a whole lot of pitches, so you feel like you're kind of guessing when you try to just go off the eye test. I think that was a curveball, and it was a really good one. It had a lot of sharp bite, late movement. So you can see Yu-Min at his best there, just really, really carving up an opposing hitter.
Well, and Taz asks the question I think that a lot of people have on their minds, Jesse, and that's how long till we see Lin get called up. And obviously, I know the Diamondbacks are kind of set as far as starting pitching is concerned, and they even have some pretty decent depth from guys that got their experience this year. Lin just getting up to AAA this past season, but I mean, do you see them doing anything to expedite him coming up, or would you see him not actually making his major league debut until next season, the following season? So not 2025, but 2026.
No, I think he has a legitimate shot to pitch in the big leagues in 2025. I mean, when we talked to him in spring training, he said his goal was to pitch in the big leagues this season, and obviously that didn't come to fruition. Missing 6 weeks with the freak injury was a bit of an obstacle there. But yeah, he pitched one game in AAA at the end of the season. I imagine he'll start next year in AAA as well. And look, I mean, Yolbert Diaz started the season in AA and wound up pitching in the majors for the Diamondbacks. So absolutely, if Yu-Min is starting in AAA, I think he totally has a shot. It's just a matter of the Diamondbacks starting pitching depth and where they feel they stand on Tommy Henry and Slade Ciccone and Blake Walston, Gilbert Diaz, some of these other options that they have. We generally see teams use 10, 11, 12 starting pitchers to get through a full season. I think there's a pretty decent chance that Yu-Min Lin's name is called at some point in 2025. Probably not toward the beginning of the year, but at some point, I think it's pretty realistic.
Well, there's no reason to wait anymore, and no reason to make that mistake that we made before where we gave King Snake out to a Dodger. We promise we'll never do that again. Yu-Min Lin is our King Snake for tonight. 3 innings pitched, 3 hits allowed, 0 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, 3 of them in 1 inning. And yeah, he just looked really good tonight. My only criticism, like I said earlier, he threw a lot of pitches. It felt like he was throwing a lot of stuff out of the strike zone and wasn't attacking batters at times enough, because when he did, it seemed to be effective. But yeah, I mean, that's fall league baseball. Sometimes they're working on something specific, just like they are during spring training. Sometimes it's about, just following some coaching that they've been provided or been given. So it just another impressive outing from him so far this fall. And again, another marquee name for you to go see if you get a chance to go out and see a Rafters game.
Yeah, and Yu-Min Lin being 21 years old, I mean, that's maybe the best selling point here, right? I don't think anyone objectively views him as a prospect with a super high ceiling, frankly. At least I don't think that's how the industry views him right now. The reality is that he is a low 90s guy. He is a left-handed pitcher who's 5'9", 5'10". We don't see a ton of those guys in the big leagues who find success. There are examples, but really not a lot of them. So yeah, but I mean, the fact that he is at this point, that he is in AAA, that he made it up to AAA at the end of the season and is really on the doorstep of making a big league debut at this age is really impressive. And it means that he has a lot of runway to kind of figure some things out. He's got all these pitches to sort through, which can be both a blessing and a curse in some ways, because sometimes it takes a while for you to figure out which ones are actually going to be the most effective, especially at the big league level. But yeah, looking at the numbers, I know somebody asked about how many whiffs he had. He had 6 whiffs in this game. At least that's what I counted. 8 called strikes. He threw 49 pitches. 28 of those were strikes. So yeah, to your point earlier, I think he could have been more efficient. His strike rate was not particularly high in this game. There were some misses early on. He wasn't generating a ton of swing outside the zone, but it felt like he just got better as the outing went on.
Well, we heard from Stephen Carey that his nickname is Jimmy, Jesse. So I'm making the call to call him Bad Jimmy, based on our local restaurant near our office. I'm sure Max is going to be furious with me, but Bad Jimmy feels not bad as in bad as in good. Like that. I come from a time when bad meant good. I think it's back to meaning bad again. So I'm not sure if this nickname is going to work, but I like Bad Jimmy. Anyway, speaking of another guy with a cool name, Tommy Troy was 0 for 3 tonight, 2 strikeouts with a walk. Not having a very good Arizona Fall League so far, or season in the Arizona Fall League so far. Looks frustrated. Had a I'm not going to say it was a hard hit ball at him, but he kind of missed making a good defensive play there on a ball there, defense in the outfield, or he was playing second base tonight. But man, I mean, he didn't look like he had a great night at the plate.
He didn't, no. And you can tell there's quite a bit of frustration that is set in for Tommy Troy at this point. I mean, he's 1 for 25 in the Fall League. He has an 0.40 batting average. And he's a first round pick. He's a guy who has a lot of expectations. He's still viewed, I think, as one of the top prospects in this organization. And I think there's reasons to be patient here. He did miss a couple of months with a hamstring injury that wound up being pretty significant this year. It sounds like he tried to do way too much upon returning from that injury, that he was trying to get all his hits back with one swing, is the way that Sean Larkin, Diamondbacks farm director, explained it to me. And you saw him finish the regular season really well down in Hillsboro. He really showed some positive strides toward the end of the year. But here in the Fall League, it's been rough. There's no getting around it. You mentioned the 2 strikeouts in the game today. His last at bat was a strikeout. It was a 3-2 pitch that was on the outside. I don't know exactly where the pitch was, but Troy was rung up on a called third strike, and you could very clearly hear throughout the ballpark him say that's outside, which is not even in an intimate environment like Scottsdale Stadium, which it is very, very small. We can hear a lot of things here that we can't hear, at Chase Field, certainly. But yeah, he's clearly very frustrated at this point, and you can understand why. This is not the season that he hoped to have. And I think the Fall League is an opportunity to kind of have a clean slate and try to finish a rough year well. And that is not what's happened so far.
Yeah, he also looked like he's put on a little bit of muscle. He looked a little bit thicker. Meanwhile, Christian Robinson, Jesse, a player in the Diamondbacks organization that has had quite the tumultuous path, he looked great. He looks like he lost a lot of weight. He really leaned up. He was 1 for 4 tonight with a double, really hard hit ball out to the outfield. He did strike out twice, but or maybe 3 times. He struck out 3 times, but it is good to see Christian Robinson just in general still playing baseball, and it was great to see him in the shape that he's currently in.
He looks athletic, absolutely. Definitely a leaner build than we've seen from him, and at least the last time that I remember him. But
this spring, right? We just saw him this past spring.
Yeah. I mean, but this is kind of the Christian Robinson experience, right? 1 for 4 with a double, which into the right center field gap, a really, really nice swing. But then, you've got the 3 strikeouts and a little bit too much chase, a little bit too much swing and miss. And I think that's what held him back this year. He didn't really put up great numbers in Amarillo, which is obviously a really hitter-friendly environment. And so far, he's been okay in the Fall League. I think he's at 235 with a 749 OPS. So respectable numbers there. But I think the number of strikeouts is as big of a stat for him as really anything else at this point. And him striking out in 3 out of 4 plate appearances is not really a particularly encouraging sign. So, you know, I don't think that all hope is lost there. I still think that his raw tools are intriguing enough that he's still going to show up on some top prospect lists, but he's getting pretty close to sort of being a non-prospect, frankly. Where, you know, his age is just, it gets to a point and the numbers just don't line up, where I think it's reasonable to have some pretty significant questions about a future for Christian Robinson in the big leagues.
Well, and I hate the fact that this is how it is, but the gentleman that was sitting next to me in the press box turned to me when Christian Robinson came up and said, "Oh, is that the guy that had all those problems?" You know, and it's like, yeah, that's the guy, you know, but like that's tough that kind of becomes, you know, your reputation in a way. And it's unfortunate because we know that was kind of a mental health situation. It was, you know, something that luckily didn't escalate out of control and didn't get worse for Christian Robinson. And he worked his way through it. He had to go through a lot to get back to this point where he could be even still with the Diamondbacks organization and playing in the Arizona Fall League. But it would be a wonderful story to see him come back to baseball and thrive and be the player that everybody thought he was going to be, you know, one day. I agree with you though. There comes a point where time does start to run out on you. And it's not just on players like Christian Robinson. There's so many great young players that were highly touted prospects that people thought the world of. And then they just, injuries, circumstances, whatever the case may be, held them back. And they just never really got to reach that full potential that so many people thought they could reach. But again, that's what Arizona Fall League is partially about, getting a chance to see these guys, getting a chance to see the best young players play against the best young players. And again, it's for me, it's still one of those things that every time I see him in a D-backs uniform playing baseball, it's a good feeling. It feels like, you know, it's good to see him out there. Kyle Ament, we talked about him a bit this week. We said he was a player to kind of look out for. He came out, pitched an inning in relief, gave up 1 hit, 1 run that wasn't earned, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts through 23 pitches. How did he look, Jesse?
Yeah, I think he has good stuff. He's interesting, man. He's got a very extreme, over the top, almost Josh Colmenter-esque delivery, which was intriguing. Not something that you really see very often. He hides the ball really well, I think, as well. So yeah, just sort of the eye test. And granted, I am certainly no scout, but a bit of a
a lot of them out there.
Look. Yeah, there were a lot of them out there. Keith Law was out there too with his fancy fedora.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, from what we know, Ament, unfortunately there wasn't a radar gun. At least we didn't get any velo readings in the ballpark here. But from what I know, he's a low 90s guy. It's not as much about the velo as it is about the riding life on his fastball. I think he uses a cutter a pretty decent amount. At least that's what some past StatCast numbers say. His breaking ball got some swing and miss there. So yeah, it's intriguing. It's different. And we talked about how he racked up strikeouts at just absurd rates this year to start his minor league season. I think it was a strikeout rate around 50% in high A and then above 40% in double A. Both of those numbers are insane. He ran into a bit of a roadblock once he got to triple A. The walk numbers climbed there. But as we said the other day, this is a guy that I think has a chance to impact the Diamondbacks bullpen in 2025. And he's fun to watch. He's different. He's not 94 with a slider. It's a different look for sure.
Well, we didn't just have these prospects playing today. We also had Jordan Lawler playing in his first Dominican Winter League game today, Jesse. And
yeah,
man, Jordan Lawler looked good today. 3 for 4.
Yeah, I am having a terrible time finding Dominican Winter League box scores. I think I found.
You don't say.
I think I found like a.
You don't have StatCast data on that?
Site. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it exists out there. And there were some video highlights floating around on social media that I'm sure people saw. But yes, we know that he fell a triple short of the cycle. People might have seen the home run that he hit in that game. I think it was in his second at bat. So yeah, this is a really big opportunity for Lawler, who's also among the Diamondbacks prospects who spent a whole bunch of time on the injured list this year. Him really more than anyone else. He's got a big opportunity here to make up for some lost time. And the Dominican Winter League, you know, the level of competition it's certainly not major league caliber. Although there are some players, some major leaguers who do play in that league. It's always kind of fun going through the rosters every year. But yeah, this is a big opportunity for Lawler, and he certainly capitalized on day one.
It's just great to see, great to hear that. Great to know that Lawler could be on the horizon for this team. At this point, we need some positives for next season, Jesse. We need to know how this team's going to improve. And as much as you and I want to provide that hope, give that good news, tell people, yes, next year this team's going to keep getting better. We're unsure of that because of the pieces that they're losing and the amount of money that they have committed right now. Just as much as you want to get excited about this team building and making this squad even better next year, financially, they might not be able to make that happen with free agents and more additions. But the one way they could have it happen is with these young players potentially, you know, coming up and becoming a part of this team.
Absolutely. I mean, going into 2025, I think all of us are going to go in with a baseline expectation that this offense is going to regress, almost regardless of what the Diamondbacks do this offseason. I mean, the offense was so incredibly good this year that it just doesn't feel like the Diamondbacks can possibly repeat that, especially given that, you know, you're probably not bringing back everyone who is an impending free agent. But Jordan Lawler is one of those guys who can really help balance out some of what you lose offensively. At least he has the potential to do that. He's not someone that you necessarily want to count on from day one of the season. He still only has 140 plate appearances in AAA, because I think it was like 58 this year and 60 or 70 last year toward the end of the season. But there's a lot of ceiling here. I mean, this guy has been the Diamondbacks' #1 prospect for a long time. It feels like when we talk about prospects, there's just Jordan Lawler and then there's everyone else. And he really has a chance to be a star level player. You know, is he going to be able to emerge as that in 2025? That's a big question, but the talent is there for him to be a pretty special player. So he is going to be one of the team's biggest X factors in 2025.
I almost got him, and then did you see that? I was about to capture him, and then he disappeared, Jesse. Bad Jimmy says hit that like button. Make sure you hit that like button. Of course, we got another major MLB superstar who is dropping Scott Boras as their agent. Is there trouble in Boras land? We're going to talk about it on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere. But first, of course, we got to tell you how to go see more baseball games, because that's the key. We got Arizona Fall League. Those are easy. Tickets are available at the at the box office. They're like $13. You don't worry about that. But when we're talking about big sporting events, we're talking about expensive games. You want to save money, and you got to do that through Game Time. You can save up to 60% by buying tickets last minute, which is what I love to do. I hate to commit to future events. I just want to buy tickets when I decide to go. And a lot of times that's 45 minutes before the show starts. So Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes it easier on me in those crunch time situations to find the best deals. And that is by Game Time Picks filtering out the fluff to show only the incredible deals on great seats. So I don't have to waste time searching through all those other tickets and looking for the best deal. You also have the assurance of the lowest price guarantee by Game Time, or they will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Jesse, what time is it?
It is game time, Derek.
Thank you. I had to go be sick off to the side for a second. But also check out Sanderson Ford if you're in the market for a vehicle. Even if you're not, they have a wonderful diner on premise. You could just go get something good to eat. Just go visit the wonderful cars they have on their 65-acre facility. And of course, we are proud to have Sanderson Ford as our official vehicle partner because they have been around here in the Valley for generations. They are family owned and operated through 3 generations, in fact, and they thrive on a no hassle, no pressure, and no nonsense sales approach. In fact, they'll let you take one of the cars out for a test drive. They're not even going to hassle you about whether or not you want to buy it. They just want to make sure you find the right vehicle for your needs, and they'll get you the best deal that they can. Right now, you can get deals on the 24 Ford Bronco Sport for 5.9% APR for 66 months, plus $2,000 cash back. Must be financed through Ford Motor Credit, OAC. Also, help them celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, which you know it's always Hispanic Heritage Month on this show. But you can help them celebrate with a Dia de los Muertos inspired trunk or treat at Sanderson Ford. Bring the kids, have a great time. See dealership for details. And that's on October 19th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. So that's coming up here this week. Do not miss out on all that fun. All right. Well, Jesse talked about it. Scott Boras, super agent, all the resources in the world, has like an Avengers-like facility for you to train at and be fed. And you have lasers and helicopters and access to all sorts of things other Major League Baseball players don't have. Nick Castellanos dropped Scott Boras as his agent today, declaring that he will represent himself, which I'm not so sure about that. Good luck on how that goes. It's also very odd that Castellanos makes this announcement, but he's not set to hit free agency this offseason, Jesse. It's just weird timing.
Yeah, I'm curious if this is a temporary arrangement or if Nick Castellanos is actually planning to represent himself when he does hit free agency next, which I believe is slated for after the 2026 season. So he's still under team control with the Phillies for 2 more years. The timing here is a little bit odd. It's not like, I don't think his agent would even have much to do right now. There's no arbitration cases. His numbers are already locked in. I guess there's maybe some sponsorship deals and whatnot. Maybe he's tired of having Boras meddle with his sponsorships. I don't know. But this feels like it's more about Nick Castellanos than it is about Scott Boras. I know Boras has taken some flack recently, and obviously there's the Jordan Montgomery situation. But Nick Castellanos, like, just what we know about him as a character in the sport, it really does not surprise me that Nick Castellanos is interested in, has decided to represent himself. I don't really know how to explain that, but that's just sort of the general sense that I have.
Well, there's a couple of I have a couple of thoughts on this. My first one being, like, it's wild to think of anybody leaving Scott Boras, right? Like, I feel like when you are represented by Scott Boras, you have achieved the pinnacle of sports representation in the game of baseball. And you are almost guaranteed to get the most money that you could possibly have made in your career with this man representing you, right? Not to mention, I joke, but he does have ridiculous resources, right? How often do we see Zach Gallen in a really cool Scott Boras like hat or zip up jacket or something, right? Like the amount of resource, like when during the pandemic, right? Boras had some secret trading facility where these guys were all at. And like, there's just all sorts of things that you have access to as a Scott Boras client that I'm not sure if you have access to as, you know, with anybody else representing you, right? But does he have too many clients, Jesse? Does he get to a point where the Boras brand is so big that you're not dealing with Scott Boras anymore unless you go sign and he shows up at your, you know, press conference like he does with the players here, where he just comes and sits at the table next to them? Like, how much face time are you actually getting with Scott Boras as a client, right? And I mean, there comes a point where potentially, like maybe you don't feel like you're getting as many opportunities as you could get because you're being represented by a guy that has so many players that he's representing. You don't feel like he necessarily has the time for you, or is maybe thinking of your best interest, where somebody that you're their primary client would be just bending over backwards and doing everything they can for you.
I mean, I know Scott has like an extensive staff, so maybe your FaceTime with him directly is not what you. But I don't know. I mean, even though Scott
I want to talk
Boras
to the
has a lot
doctor,
of
Jesse.
clients-
I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk to the nurse all the time. Sometimes I want to talk to the doctor. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, he could have an extensive staff and he could have people working for you and everything could be fine.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you don't really feel like he cares about you. Jesse, this is why Jerry Maguire left Sports Management International. This is the entire premise for that movie. He wanted to go, he grew a conscience and he wanted to go offer personal, small representation to players and not be some big, nameless, faceless corporation. And that's a movie from a long time ago. Again, I'm dating myself with a Jerry Maguire reference and saying bad used to mean good. I might as well just, it's a wrap for me. It's a wrap for me. I might as well just let this gray hair grow out and call it a day. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying like there's some sort of, oh, we're going to see this rash of players dropping Scott Boras. But as much as it seems crazy that they would drop Boras, and also if you think about it from other perspectives, it might not be so crazy that a player, especially someone that's as unique of a personality as Nick Castellanos, might not want that big corporate machine representing them as much anymore.
Well, I think it bears mentioning that it wasn't Jeff Passan breaking this news. It wasn't Bob Nightingale. It was Jess Castellanos, who is Nick Castellanos's wife, and it wasn't like she just openly tweeted this out. It was that she responded to a tweet from Phillies Tailgate. Phillies Tailgate, which is just sort of this random Twitter account that I guess has a pretty decent following, just tweeted out a list.
Don't belittle things covering baseball teams that people might not know exist, Jesse. You might be throwing rocks inside of our glass house here. I'm just saying.
Fair enough. So they tweet out this list of Phillies players that are represented by Scott Boras, and Nick Castellanos is on the list. And then Jess Castellanos replies to the tweet with an asterisk and says, "Not Nick," which was news. Like, this was not something that had been reported. And again, like, Nick Castellanos hasn't negotiated a contract in several years at this point. I think it was 2021 going into 2022. That offseason is when Castellanos landed his 5-year, $100 million deal with the Phillies. So it's a pretty bizarre situation. I don't really know exactly why Castellanos is doing this, but it'll be interesting to see if this becomes a trend, or if it's just Jordan Montgomery having a really, obviously his free agency did not go the way that he wanted. He was not happy with it. And Nick Castellanos is kind of a unique character. He wants to represent himself. To me, it's not really a trend yet. It'll be interesting to see how these next few years play out.
Well, I'd like to take a moment just to tell Scott Boras, in case he's listening, because we know he's a huge fan of the show, I'm ready to sell out. I'm ready to be represented by Scott Boras. I want the corporate machine making as much money for me as possible. I'll wear any jacket. Look at the hat I'm wearing right now. I'm dying to sell out. Like, I can't wait for it. It's my favorite thing to do. So hit me up and let me know when we can start making that money, baby. Well,
that commission though, Derek, that commission is gonna
it's something.
Just kill you.
It's something, but he earns it, Jesse. He earns it. He definitely earns it, or at least 6 members of his staff earn
you
it,
might have to just take a pillow contract, Derek. I don't know. I'd be a little bit more hesitant if I were you. Instead of getting the extended, the long-term extension from PHNX, you might be looking at a 1-year deal. And I don't know if that's what's best for your future and your family. So
we were just talking earlier about Christian Robinson maybe not having a lot of time left. I definitely, with all these references I've made, have proven I don't have a lot of time left. So I got to get on making this money as soon as possible. All right. Reverse mortgages, whatever I got to do. We'll figure it out. I'm not leaving any money to my daughter. Forget it. But anyway, Jesse, we thank you so much. Well, I think me too. We were both out there. So like, you're not getting all the credit for being out at the Arizona Fall League game. I did get those spiffy videos, but we do thank all of you for joining us tonight so much. We appreciate you stopping by. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Cap_Caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse and Friedman. Our guy on the 1s and 2s tonight is our guy Kev. He is at Kev Tom Wrights. Oh wow, there's a big Jesse. What is that? Get that off my screen.
Wow.
Oh, that's better. Yeah, that's the good one. Yeah. Do we have Kev Tom Wrights? Do we got that one? No, but we got see, you still have to figure out Kev Tom Wrights. That's on you. We're not showing you that one. But our show is at PHNX_DBacks. All roads do, of course, lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you guys so much for stopping by tonight. We will see you tomorrow with another 1 p.m. show, so make sure to join us for that. And in the meantime, we hope you guys have a wonderful evening. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it is so much more fun out at an Arizona Fall League game.
We all silly like the mayor.